This podcast is intended for mature audiences and contains adult language and subject matter. Listeners, please be advised.
And hello, everyone, and our 5 listeners out in Peoria, Indiana. This is Drinking with Your Ex. I am Blake Thompson.
And I am Bonnie Neal. Welcome back.
We are so excited to be talking with you this evening.
And just to let you know, this is a podcast that Blake and I started because we are exes, and we both find ourselves single and over 40, and with wildly strong opinions about why both of us are still single and over 40.
And all about us jumping into the dating pool and our very strong opinions about jumping back into the dating pool in your 40s.
Oh my goodness, it's so much fun. So there are 3 rules to this podcast. The first rule is every podcast is brought to you by a particular kind of alcohol. The second rule is...
The second rule is that we get to introduce each other. So you want to talk about some edge play? Let's let your ex introduce you to the world.
Oh my God, right. And the third rule of this podcast is that we each get to ask the other one a very uncomfortable question about the topic at hand.
And that's the best part, because there's no takebacks, there's no dodging the question, there's no taking a mulligan and going, no. It's a necessity.
It's absolutely required. It's kind of the purpose of why we do this. And yes, it is slightly masochistic and sadomasochistic at the same time.
It's totally sadomasochistic.
But luckily we have plenty of booze to get us through this whole endeavor. All right.
Before we get started, we have our introduction.
Oh, Blake. So I just need to set the scene for everybody, because if you've listened enough, you know that like these introductions, I always kind of forget, and then I get a little mean. And anyway, so Blake actually has handwritten an introduction that he's taken a picture of on his phone, and now he is just bursting to read it out loud. All right, we've set the stage. Go ahead.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce my ex, Bonnie Neal, a retired child prodigy from the mean streets of NYU, where she wants to let you know that you are entitled to your incorrect opinion if you do so choose to use it.
Aw.
And if that offends you, she will happily apologize to your bruised, fragile ego.
That never happened, but that's actually kind of sweet. I like that one.
I do too. I thought it was a good one.
Wow. Well, now I feel bad about what I was going to say about you. All right, anyway, I'm just going forward.
Ladies and gentlemen, she was all thinking I was going to be all mean and shit.
I know, I was, paranoid. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is Blake Thompson, who is one of those unique kind of men who can take apart in under, 30 seconds a Glock 19, and yet also pick an excellent, but yes, well-priced vintage of wine to go with any meal.
Yes, I could be a catch.
You could be a catch.
Yes.
Guns and wine, what could go wrong with that combination, ladies?
Guns and alcohol, everyone. Come on.
Still single, just saying.
I'm still single. I know, it's shocking.
I mean, I'm not that shocked, but I get it. It seems
I
shocking.
Totally understand why I'm single. It's totally okay.
Sure, it's fine. All right, so.
And tonight, our sponsor is schnapps, because no good idea or dating decision ever started with schnapps.
Or ended with it, let's be honest.
Or ended with it. And if it did end with schnapps, you know it was dirty.
All right, so Blake just informed me that I spent most of my college years drinking schnapps, and I didn't realize that Black House apparently is blackberry schnapps. But
yeah.
What would you say your favorite flavor of schnapps is, Blake?
It's like, this is when I go back to the tweens, when I was making cocktails for my parents at their parties when they couldn't stand up, and I found fuzzy navels were amazing. So peach schnapps has just a wonderful space in the cockles of my heart.
I'm believing that, and it's weird that you almost sort of rubbed your nipples when you said the word peach schnapps.
I didn't rub my nipples per se. Now I am.
Awesome. My favorite is peppermint schnapps. It's pretty much popular around with most teenagers in West Texas, because then you just sound like you're just really dedicated to dental health. It's great.
Yes, and it's okay to disguise, because you can actually say, I just have a bottle of mouthwash.
What? I got a cold. All right, so tonight's topic is soulmates, true love, the one. Why do we date? Do we all date just trying to find that one, the only dream weaver?
Yes. Are you walking through the hall and you make eye contact with that person? Remember, ladies and gentlemen, there's a subtle difference between eye contact and the piercing, glazing stare of a maniac.
Which you cross all the time. I'm here to offer some helpful feedback.
If you're on that subway platform or stuck in 35 traffic, you're sitting there, you look over and you see the one and you make the eye contact. Are you creepy? Are you not? What are you thinking? Why are you thinking? And why do you want to go there?
Is that an LA thing that you fall in love with somebody in bumper to bumper traffic? I have no desire to get to know my fellow trapped on a freeway prisoners. Is that an LA thing?
I don't know, but let's look at it this way. You can see someone's true side of them when you see them in an intricate moment of road rage.
True. I mean, I do think road rage is very revealing on all of us, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know about picking up people. No, I'm not into that. Not at all. No, dumb. Moving on. I will say that when you're over 40, you do tend to have a lot of couple friends, right?
Yep.
You have a lot of couple friends, people who have paired up
And then
successfully.
you also have a lot
might
of
say.
single friends too.
Yes. Paired up successfully. And I do have some friends who have been married a long time. And by long, I mean past the 7-year itch, moving into, some double decades. And you start thinking like, well, they found their one. They found their one person. And I do have some friends who are single, both in their 20s, 30s, and 40s, who, believe it or not, actually say that that's what they're looking for. They are looking for a soulmate. And then they have a really detailed laundry list of what this soulmate must be. And I also...
It's like walking in Dr. Frankenstein's castle when you hear the description of what some people's soulmates are supposed to be and what they need to be.
I've met less intricate grocery lists, right? For Boy Scout jamborees. They're just like really that many ingredients. And I've also when you're dating over 40, you are also dating quite a few divorced folks who, might have believed in that one at the first time.
Yeah, and it's like, what does the one look like to you? Like when you are finding yourself single and in your 40s? Because again, we all have that idealistic rom-com view. Everybody has their favorite Julia Roberts or Sandra Bullock movie where boy meets girl, girl meets boy, what have you. But then what kind of strangeness occurs when you get to your 40s and you're going, what am I looking for?
What am I looking for? And is my soulmate out there, or am I going to die alone? And if I die alone, does that mean I'm abandoning my soulmate somewhere in Indonesia? I don't know. I mean, I just like this entire idea of the one. I just like this entire idea of soulmates. I'm sure they're somewhere, maybe children of Pablo Neruda, it exists, but I feel that the pressure on a pairing, a romantic pairing, whether that be like heteronormative, like we talk about, or whether that be just any kind of romantic sexual pairing, the idea that this is one person who is supposed to carry the entire burden of your emotional, physical, and social needs for the rest of their life while singing songs and dancing with birds. Like,
wow.
is that what? I mean, that's what that's what the rom-com
This turns
Disney
into a dystopian
implication is.
Disney movie.
Yeah.
But honestly, I like to joke where I go, yeah, there's a lid for every pot out there.
Okay, but there's, I don't know if you notice this about lids and pots. They fit a lot of different ones.
There's a lot of different ones, but the thing is, I find the idea of a soulmate where you're looking for that perfect person when you meet an individual that you have a lot in common with. A soulmate just doesn't happen. It's relationships and dating, as we all know. It's work. It's a full-time job.
Yeah. Have you ever fallen in love at first sight?
I wouldn't call it love. I would call it infatuation or gas, one of the two. I mean,
Fair.
yeah, I've met people where it's like all of a sudden, Dreamweaver pops up, and then I realize it's like, no. I become very interested in a person after a night of conversation and finding out what we have in common, not even like a first date, but just meeting on happenstance.
Okay. But not that sort of thunderstruck rom-com, John Cusack stalking you kind of thing. And if you have had something like that, would you even want it now?
Oh, no.
Right?
No.
That sounds to me utterly frightening. I was actually just thinking that probably meeting you that first time was as close as I'll ever get to love at first sight, and that was not love. That was we both kind of twinkled at each other.
We twinkled at each other and we were drinking. So I mean,
right. These things are not unrelated, in my opinion.
Yes, I mean, early 20s drinking. It's like, hey, what's up? What's happening?
I mean, you're in your early 20s.
You.
You're in your early 20s. I was much, much younger, but yes. But yeah, no, but for me, that instant attraction, right? Because that's also something wildly rare in my world and something I don't think I don't expect, and nor have I felt in a very long time.
And like now, I think as we get older, we get apprehensive if someone is that into us, so to speak.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
immediately, it's like, oh God. I
Yeah.
mean, like, am I going to find a dead rabbit in my mailbox? I mean,
Yeah. I mean, like, let's just slow down. I mean, I know I'm awesome, but we're really, I'm an acquired taste.
yeah.
Oh.
It's like all of a sudden someone is spilling. It's like you're on your third date and they're sitting there like picking out like China patterns and whatnot.
It weirds me out when like people and clients and just regular friends take to me a little too quickly. I can imagine what it would be like if a man just suddenly kind of like, oh, you're it. You're the one that I want. Do up. But I just, oh God.
Like I've had some rom-com moments, but I mean the thing is though, it's not been like love at first sight. It's like it's developed over time.
Right.
Where it's not something that was like kismet instantaneous. Like sparks flew, the world stopped. We're sitting there in bullet time in the Matrix, and we're all just like staring at each other longingly. No.
Yeah. So yeah, there's a difference between like love at first sight, instant love. I'm very, very suspicious of that and would run, not walk away from it. The instant attraction, I'm also a little bit suspicious of just because I mean my body's good for a lot of things, but making rational decisions about sexual partners perhaps not so much. And
and also like in our 40s, much like in our 20s, like we've touched on before, like where we're making sexual decisions when we're mild to moderately impaired.
Right.
Like now it's like we're in the age of Me Too. We're in the age of consent. We're in the age of, okay, I don't want to be that risky.
Right. Risk
in my 40s.
I would say I'm risk averse, but I'm definitely more risk aware than I have been. And to go back to the idea of the one, right? Because my father was always, every new wife was the one, and for a man who'd been married 5 times, that's a triumph of optimism over empirical evidence, but he falls in love like he's 17 every time. And, teenagers fall in love and they believe in soulmates. They believe in the one. They believe that this one human being is what going to emotionally validate their entire existence. That frankly sounds like horrifying to both have and be, right? I could not imagine being responsible for somebody's entire self-esteem and self-worth. That's horrible.
Yeah, and absolutely. And it's like the idea of naming someone a soulmate. That's putting a lot of pressure on that said partner,
dear Lord,
or that said potential partner, where you're not even in the relationship yet, and you're all of a sudden you're looking at them, and you got the eyes going, and you're like, I don't swaying back and forth, and it's just in your 40s. It's like, no.
Well, it seems like a form of like chosen psychosis at this point. For me, if somebody starts talking about soulmates and the one, I tend to back away slowly, palms out, make no sudden movements. Although I do have a friend, right, that we are a mutual friend of ours, and she is a big believer in instant chemistry, instant sexual compatibility, and the idea of like instant monogamy, instant commitment, instant everything.
I mean, there's a couple of things I will agree with. Instant chemistry, I do believe, is a thing where it's like you do meet somebody and all of a sudden you click.
That's true.
And it's not a soulmate thing. It's just a happenstance thing. Like all of a sudden it's like, hey, I like you. I'm really into you. But it's not like, again, it's not going back to the whole Dreamweaver, like terrifying nonsense, or you're standing outside with a boombox at 3 o'clock in the morning.
I'm calling the cops. Yes, but
getting shot at by the neighbors. It's just
getting shot at. Right. I mean, okay. I'm getting what you're saying. The idea though that in the relationship, that coming into, I think over 40, coming into the relationship with the idea that my romantic and sexual partner is suddenly going to become everything to me, right? That I'm going to let all relationships drop. I'm not going to go and see my friends. This person is going to be the one who completes me. No,
and it's like,
who would want? Why do people want that? I mean, I never quite understood why they wanted it to begin with.
Because we're conditioned for it. We've been bred for it. You start off with fairy tales. Then you move into rom-coms. You move into every movie, every TV show, every soap opera you've ever watched.
So it's like your own
Every
personal
drama
Jesus?
you
Is that
ever
what you're looking
watched,
for?
it's just like all of a sudden, I mean, like for me, it's like it'd be like watching Hannibal and going, yes, it's a love story between him and Will. I mean,
It kind of is, weirdly.
which creepily so, it actually kind of is.
But so you're not looking for that?
No.
Were
no.
you ever?
I mean, when I was in my 20s and 30s, yes, I was looking for the ones, but again, there wasn't the soulmate thing that popped up. It was just development of the relationship, where I had some relationships develop faster than others. Some of them developed too fast and they crashed and burned.
Yeah, the concept of accelerated intimacy,
Yeah,
right?
accelerated intimacy, which is a real thing,
Mm-hmm.
and also a real pitfall.
Mm-hmm.
Where, I mean, for anyone, it's like, forget who you are or what you're looking for. But I mean, if you're trying to rush something that's not yet ready to happen naturally.
Well, there are certain things that can lead to accelerated intimacy that I've also learned to kind of notice and avoid. One of them being trauma bonding,
Mm-hmm.
right? I've got a history of trauma, and I tend to also attract people who also have a history of trauma.
Agreed.
And there is this instant connection that happens when we share stories of our trauma, right? And you share a story of your trauma, and somebody's like, "Oh, I get it," and that deep sense of connection is amazing and powerful. It's also called trauma bonding, and it also is a form of accelerated intimacy, because
absolutely,
you feel like
100%.
this person knows you when actually they don't know you.
They know an instance out of your life that
Correct.
they're comparing to their own.
Yes. And there's a tendency for trauma survivors to think the trauma defines them. And so if somebody knows of their trauma, then they know them. And that's not actually true. The story of them is honestly in the what happened before and after the trauma.
Yeah, it's like I had a client years ago was sitting there talking about just this conversation about trauma bonding and whatnot, and he used the term. He goes, "You know how things are nowadays. Two sickies can't make a well."
Oh God. Oh, God. Two sickies can make a well.
I'll never forget. I'll never forget that as long as I live, ladies and gentlemen. That was one of those things. It's like, all right, right on.
Beautifully optimistic about that, but oh God, no. Not saying that
sooner or later conversations of trauma come up,
right.
But we're talking about early first dates,
right? Well, and so that's where I'm kind of coming on, like that. I do actually think that some of the phenomenon that people call like true love, soulmates, love at first sight, I actually think it probably is something related to trauma bonding.
It's also that, or everyone in their mind builds up, like when we talk about the soulmate, what is that in essence? But the building up of a fantasy. You want that fantasy to become a reality. Like you have, and that fantasy could be anything. It could be, yes, 2.5 kids, white picket fence, da 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 da. Or it could be, it's like we're partying until 4 o'clock in the morning. Woo! It could be any of that. But it's the buildup of a fantasy. It's a buildup of something that you have a strong desire to be real.
Yes, and I think the appeal of the soulmate fantasy, right, is that it literally is somebody designed by God for you.
Exactly.
And they will love you instantly, and they will never leave you, and they will always understand you, always know you. Like I said, your own personal Jesus.
And so, like, they won't mind it, like 3 o'clock in the morning when you're sitting there knitting a sweater out of your belly button and whatnot.
God.
It's like, honey, look what I made for you.
I've got nothing to say to that particular mental image, except I'm trying to get rid of it as quickly as possible.
All I'm saying is, you're welcome.
Oh God, thank you, Blake. No, ew, but ew.
But you see where, but like, joking aside, it's where people, like, they have this idea where they want someone that accepts them for who they are and what they are.
Okay, that I can get. Doesn't everyone, right? Like that
Right.
is sort of the goal. That is why we date, right?
Yeah.
That is why we date, is for a human connection with somebody who accepts us and loves us for who we are, both the good and the bad. Which is why I find the entire process of dating quite ridiculous, because mostly it's all about like hiding all the bad and pretending that all the good is better than it is. It is this smoke and mirrors moment with the idea of becoming naked, and I'm like,
Well,
okay.
yeah, let's be honest. It's like dating is like we're putting our best face forward. I want you to like me. I want you to like me. I want you to like me. I want you to like me.
Because you do want them to like you, but
But like as humans, we're not perfect.
that's usually what I like about humans is our imperfections. Like, I mean, as we talked about in some of the previous things, like I start flirting with guys when I see sort of what they would consider a not proud moment, right? And I'm like, hey, I like imperfections. I like flashes of anger. I like embarrassing moments. I mean, not for me. I like to be perfectly poised at all times, but I like to see other people's sort of foibles.
Yeah, and like for me, it's like I start flirting when I hear like an interesting topic or something of a similar interest pops up. It's like, oh, and that pops in where it's like that's when I want to start flirting.
Yes.
Or unless she's a blonde bartender, like throwing whiskey at me.
Right, with tattoos,
And like,
tiny little pocket person blonde. Yes, as we know.
yes, we've all talked about that, ladies
Blake's
and gentlemen. Yes, Bonnie loves to like tell everyone. Yes, Blake has a type.
Oh yes, oh yes. I mean, I don't think this is shocking news to anyone these days. Well, I mean, I hear the one a lot. I'm looking for the one. I'm looking for the one.
And like, I mean, when someone says it, they're looking for a life partner. That's what I think when I hear someone looking for the one.
I think that's what you should be looking for, and should. Yes, I did use that judgy McJudgy statement.
Should.
Over the age of 40, that is what you're looking for. You're looking for a life partner, which is the one that will, kind of commit to walking this path together, right? That's what the commitment is because, this second half of our life journey is going to be filled with different challenges than the first half.
Yeah, it's like it's like everybody is like looking at their life. We have our whole life ahead of us. And now we're at that midlife. And again, it's not a crisis. It's like, especially when you're single, you're doing that reevaluation where you're looking at, it's like, what do I want my life to look like? What do I want my partner to look like? And in the sense of not aesthetically, but how do I want my partner to look? It's like, what type of qualities am I looking for? And this is where, like, when we're talking about the soulmate and the one, where you start looking at putting those qualities, you throw them in a bucket, and it's like, okay, I want to build the perfect woman. This is my weird science moment.
Yeah. Or, here's my shopping list of my soulmate has to make over a certain salary a year, right? Has to have a certain level of investment accounts and retirement. And you're like, really? Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't realize soulmates came with, income and credit checks.
I mean, like I was, I'll just use this as an example. I was on Facebook dating the other day. I was just like fooling around, and then all of a sudden this woman came up. Yes, she is blonde. She has tattoos. She is tall.
Wow.
But the one of the things she talked about her 3 favorite TV shows, and one of them was Justified. And I'm like, swipe right.
Okay.
I mean,
well, I mean, online dating, I think you do have to yes, all right. There is a moment of connection. That's not this.
Yeah, it's like you had me at Justified. Click right.
Nerd, but I get it. I can do.
But again,
hey, I would swipe right on a Sandman reference on there. I get it.
Yeah, so like I mean, someone's making it like one of my favorite modern day westerns, and there's someone out there that likes it. Okay, this sounds like a person I want to talk to.
Yeah, well, at least there's something to talk about, right?
Yeah, it's like there's a topic. It's like, okay, what's your favorite scene? That type of thing, where but I'm not seeing that individual as a soulmate. I'm seeing that someone that has a like-minded interest that I do.
Right, because you are a grown-up. Finally, but a grown-up nonetheless.
Stop giving me that much credit. I'm not a grown-up. I'm this many.
I'm this many. You are a grown-up, but no, yes. I get frustrated when I hear the, looking for a soulmate and knowing instantly. I can't move that fast, and I wouldn't trust anybody who would. I guess I don't understand the. It's just not my bag. Well, because the second half of our life, right? It's gonna require different skills from the person you're with, right? There's gonna be
different
health
skills.
issues.
Yeah.
There's gonna be money issues. There's gonna be longer term money issues.
There's also going to be possibly children involved.
Yes.
That aren't yours.
Right.
Let's see. I mean, you mentioned the health issues. You mentioned money issues. Also, geographic locations. It's
Right.
like it's like, hey, I rent here, but I also own a house here. That type of thing. You might have someone that works remotely that travels.
Or, somebody, we're gonna have health issues as we get older. People are still in touch with their parents who are going to have health issues as they get older, right? Like the life paths that two partners are choosing to get into over 40 are gonna go some harder roads, some darker roads. I don't know if the desire to, I don't know, run away on a Parisian vacation should be the most like definingly attractive thing in the moment.
Well, I mean, I would love me a Parisian vacation.
Well, I
Don't get
mean,
me
I
wrong.
just like Paris, but I get your point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, what, you're going to take me someplace that has wine and cheese?
Right.
Yeah.
No, fair enough. Fair enough.
Okay. I mean, like,
You're like,
let's call this what this is.
how you doing?
Yeah, sup? Bread, wine, and cheese? Yeah. Oh my God, hand fan.
Uh, I don't know, but I also, as I'm realizing as I'm kind of having this conversation with you, is that I get accused of being non-romantic a lot, and it's probably because of things like this, in that I don't.
Well, also, I mean, like when it comes to romance, there's a level of cynicism, I think, as you get older.
I
And
think I always had that level of cynicism, but yes, I feel like I'm becoming more popular. Right? Like I'm becoming less of the anomaly and more of the norm.
yeah, but again, it's like you're not the only person that has a problem with rom-coms and like the perfection that they're perceived as. It's like, oh, they're going to overcome adversity and everything's happy and look at them happily ever after. Da, 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 da. No, full
Well,
stop.
I always found it fascinating that rom-coms usually end at the wedding, and I'm like, oh well, weddings A suck, and B, man, a wedding has absolutely nothing to do with the marriage, and from what I can tell, that looks a lot harder than one might think.
But it's all about, it's like what is your idea of romance now?
Ooh,
It's like, and that's the big question. Like especially when you're moving in, when you're looking for the one, quote unquote. It's like, what does romance in your 40s look like?
I mean, for me, all right, I will say this about flowers. Flowers are always a good idea, and any woman who says she doesn't like flowers is lying, unless she's actually abjectly allergic to it. But
You sent me a bouquet. Yes, that flower there can kill me.
yeah, but I do like flowers. I like thoughtfulness. I like making plans. As you know, I tend to kind of be a overworker, and if I'm always being relied upon to be the goddamn cruise director for plans, I hate it. So someone taking the effort, putting out effort and thoughtfulness, effort and thoughtfulness. I believe that is the definition of romance for me. Effort and
It's like,
thoughtfulness.
because like our views of romance change. It's like effort, thoughtfulness, communication, and I'm not just talking about hey, what's up, but like actual communication about what do you want. What are you hoping to find out of this relationship, or like starting those questions early if you have that flame that was lit.
Well, but what would be a romantic gesture for you? Like if a cute little blonde tattooed pocket woman was trying to turn your head, what would
She's
be
buying
that?
me drinks. I'm told. Like
That's true. You're a little easy, Blake. I'm just saying. But what would be a romantic gesture?
It's it's I like surprises. It's like
Right?
every once in a while.
Like jump out from behind the corner, boo, surprise, or
No.
like
It's like
hey, I made you dinner kind of surprise.
Like I made hey, you know what? I scored. I heard you talking about this restaurant the other day. I scored reservations, stuff like that.
Ah, okay, all right.
Or it's like, hey, guess what? Got 2 tickets to so and so show that you were talking about. That type of thing.
Okay.
I like those types of surprises.
Okay.
And as Bonnie has been inflicted upon by me, my taste in music sometimes in the morning is
Thrash fucking metal. 6 a.m. thrash fucking metal, and he's swanning about the apartment as if he's in his happy place. I'm like, I'm gonna murder someone. At least I have the soundtrack to do it.
and I still do that, ladies and gentlemen. So fair warning.
Yes. Okay.
Like stuff like that. It's like, and it's not so much the act, but it's the thoughtfulness of it. Where you remembered something I liked.
Okay. Thoughtfulness, right?
Yeah, thoughtfulness.
Remembered something that I liked.
Yeah, you remembered something I liked, and you acted upon it.
You made an effort.
Yeah, there's effort involved.
You made an
Or-
effort to make me happy. Yes. I think this is
Or
the
did-
basics of.
But not
romance.
just not even just to make me happy. It's not like you bought me a massage and a pedicure or whatnot, where it's just
Make me happy doing something together.
Right.
Yes.
Like we're going out and doing things together, that's one of the most important things for me. where if it's like if you're in a relationship, and this is any length, either starting to dating or like you've been involved for years, is going out and doing things together and sharing experiences.
Doing things together. I don't want that exactly. I would like a partner that we have a few shared interests, but I'm not quite sure I want a partner who's all up in my jam about all of my stuff. I mean, I'm a burner. I like to go to burns. I don't know if I want to date a burner or have my man be a burner.
Right on.
I think I'd need him to go to a burn just to understand it, but I kind of like being a little territorial and having that be some Bonnie me time with my friends.
Right on. I would like a partner that can whip my ass in pool, because that's one of my favorite things. It's like, let's go to a pool hall, and if you're talking smack, score.
Yeah, but you are an activity-based kind of person. Yeah, you are. You're like activity romance.
And also, just having those nights at home.
Well, here's my uncomfortable question for you.
Shoot. Ooh, dove right in.
Have you ever been in a relationship where you thought this is the one, and then how did that go?
2 separate occasions.
Okay.
2 separate occasions. The first one was my first lust, love, infatuation, like when I was 14. Side note, we're still friends to this day.
But you thought she was the one.
She thought she was the one.
Dreamweaver was playing in the background.
Dreamweaver. Well, actually, DRI was playing in the background.
What was?
Dirty Rotten Imbeciles.
Oh, God. Okay. The mating song of Blake.
Yeah. Cute little brunette punk chick from Southern Ohio. But that was my Dreamweaver moment. But what's funny, she ended up marrying the hottest girl in our high school.
So her taste improved, is what you're saying.
Yes, her taste dramatically improved.
Sorry.
But she's still on my pen text. We talk all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't end up with a soulmate, so to speak, but I ended up with a really amazing friend that's still in my life.
That is actually lovely. So it's a love story of some sort.
Well, it's like, I mean, you could call it a love story, because I mean, she knows who she is. Do you want a kidney or I need to bury a body? Call me.
So when you were post puberty, did you and a reasonable adult, did you ever have you had a relationship?
Yeah, like I had a long-term relationship that started off, it's like, met at a bus stop, read the same book, made her laugh on the ferry, dated her for years, but then our lives changed.
But that's the one you thought was the one.
Yeah, but it wasn't I thought was the one because it was like instantaneous. It was something that developed over a year. I thought she was the one. It was not a 100-mile-an-hour relationship, like you're saying. There was no instant intimacy. There was no. I mean, was there chemistry, instant chemistry? Absolutely, there was. Where just like all of a sudden, it's like we like doing the same things, hanging out, doing the stuff. We have similar background, and just like talking to people, love people watching, that type of thing. And sitting in an Irish pub at like 1:00 in the morning, making fun of everybody in there was awesome. Because you're sitting there going, it's like, oh, that's a poor date happening right now. I know, right? Look at that.
Let's be catty little bitches together.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
Love,
I am a catty people watching bitch. I admit it. I am not even going to front. It's just like when you're out at a pub and you're watching a date go badly, you're like going, ooh, oh God. And you want to stand up with cue cards and just keep score.
Like the Russian judge, right?
Yeah.
Follow-up uncomfortable question based on this is, do you think that feeling and thought that she was the one is what made it so hard to leave and why it took so long?
No, it just years passed and we grew apart. Like different priorities came up. Geographic priorities came up. Mental health priorities came up. That type of thing. Where things occurred where we realized, okay, this is not healthy for either one of us, just because of how much our lives were changing at the time.
Do you still kind of think she was the one, and then life happened? Is that even possible to have a one and then life happened?
Again, it's just like at the time I thought she was this was going to be that forever relationship, but it just didn't work out that way.
When did you realize that it wasn't that?
Let's see. Close to the end of the relationship, both of us were going through therapy at the time separately. She wanting to move back to her home state, me not wanting to leave New York because I was heavily invested in grad school and all the things. And it's just priorities changed. And then we realized it's okay, maybe it's time to part ways. And it was a mutual, it was a very civil mutual decision.
Because there's still a lot of love there.
Yeah, there's no mean words, nothing. I mean, nothing like that. Are there times I wish things were different? Yeah, absolutely, but they weren't, and that couldn't be helped.
Okay. Interesting. I mean, I don't think you're bullshitting me, but there's something unsatisfying about that answer. I'm not quite sure what it is, but I think that's the problem with all sort of love stories, right?
Yeah.
When they meet reality, they're unsatisfying.
I don't find this question uncomfortable at all, actually.
Oh, well, I need to try harder.
Yeah, you need to try harder. You know, work harder on that. No, it was probably the longest relationship I ever had. Better part of 9 years. We weren't married on paper, but like you could almost call it that we were.
Why didn't you get married?
Welcome to the world of finances. Because I was applying for financial aid for school and we were planning on it. And then we found out, like, if I applied for financial aid, I would have to claim her salary, claim her assets, claim everything as my income.
Oh, yeah, no.
And it's like...
That makes no sense, yes.
Yeah, it makes ridiculous no sense. It's like... And if we did that, I wouldn't have got any financial aid at all. And I'm talking about like no grants, nothing.
Don't you love how the tax and, banking system discourage marriage?
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of ludicrous.
Like, we didn't get married because it made no financial sense.
Yeah, that's the thing. And at the time, it's like I was also working in a moderately cash business. So technically, I didn't have an income.
Ah, there you go.
Yeah.
The best student loans happen when you're pretty much broke.
Yeah, and it's like, well, but I mean, at the time, I was working in 5 bars. So
Lazy.
Yeah.
Slothful, one might say.
Yeah.
Lazy.
Totally lazy.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think it was like the one, like, again, like Dreamweaver thing. It's like, but I thought at the time I found my person. Like I found my person that got me, that understood me and things of that nature.
Yeah.
And again, it just, life happened for both of us and it didn't work out.
Yeah.
Does it suck? Yeah, it does. Was it sad? Yeah, very sad.
But hey, man, that's life.
Yeah.
It's also not horrible.
Yeah. Cleaning out the apartment afterward was rough.
Yeah.
That was like out of all the things, it's like, because she packed up and moved and she said, I have to move and I have to leave. Will you clean out the apartment? And I did it by myself. And that was gut wrenching.
Why did you do it by yourself? Because you wanted to? You it's not that you didn't have any friends, but that you just didn't want to do that with them?
No, because I knew how emotional it was going to be.
Oh.
Because it was like a chapter in my life that closed.
Grieving.
I was grieving, and like there was a lot of I'm sitting there cleaning this apartment, finding stuff that gifts that were left there and things of that nature.
Gifts. She abandoned some of the gifts you've given her?
Yes.
Ouch. Yeah.
That was rough.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh. But again, it's like it was what it was. We grew apart.
It happens.
I'm trying to think of an uncomfortable question for you. I actually don't have one right now.
Well, I mean, that's because my life is an open book. I'm actually a wildly simple person and easy to get to know. And honestly, a true romantic at heart. I'm truly well known for my wild romantic notions.
Okay, so actually no, I do have an uncomfortable question now.
See, I knew I was feeding you enough fodder to
sitting there, I'm listening.
Strike.
It's like, yes, Bonnie is shoveling the coal into the end of that furnace.
I mean, all these true things about me.
Did you have someone that you felt was the one where it was a crashing and burning situation?
No, I don't think I've ever met the one. This is an interesting story. I did have somebody that I did at times think was my soulmate.
Okay.
You've met him. It is a teenager thing, right? We were teenagers together and we definitely trauma bonded.
Okay.
And we had a very abusive, toxic, tempestuous relationship as teenagers. And we continued to have a abusive, toxic, tempestuous relationship as young adults. And then an abusive, toxic, tempestuous relationship into our late 20s. And then I, kind of went crazy, but started devoting an awful lot of time to actually handling my shit and trying to grow and heal past some of the things that I had survived, as opposed to kind of running from them and or running from them and or using them as an excuse for an awful lot of bad behavior. And he didn't. He went down a darker road than I ever did, right? He wound up going to LA and then, kind of not only living on the streets, but kind of hustling on the streets. And that does actually change a person. And I remember visiting him in LA when I was in New York and seeing him look at me like I was a mark. And that was a hell of a fight. And then he kind of saw me getting my shit together, trying to. And then he tried to, and he got married. I remember going to his wedding.
Whoa, you went to his wedding.
I did go to his wedding. That was both awkward and also really sweet. I was really glad that things seemed to be looking up for him. And his wife seemed like a very kind and smart woman who cared about him deeply. a lot more than I think he frankly deserved because he was kind of a fucking shit. And so I was very happy that this is the way his life was turning. This is the direction his life was going. And I was happy about that. And, it was all like kind of weird soulmate stuff and that, we would go months, sometimes years without talking and then kind of crash into each other's lives. The last time I talked with him, he was talking about leaving his wife, and I really strongly discouraged that because I thought she was a very stabilizing factor in his life, and I think he needed it. And he didn't. He left her, and wound up dead 3 years later.
Oh wow, I'm sorry.
Yeah, but I thought he was a soulmate when we were kids because I didn't understand what trauma bonding was, but there was, for better or for worse, our trauma matched, and there's something kind of powerful about that connection. But yeah, I mean, if he was my soulmate, he's now dead, which leaves me free to have a, regular life mate as opposed to something that toxic, abusive, and tempestuous. But honestly, him dying like that, he was killed by so-called friends. Him dying like that was a real kick in my ass to continue getting my shit together and make a real effort to make better choices in my life, make a better life, because if you don't deal with this trauma shit, it will kill you.
Agreed.
And it did kill him, and not me. He's this is gonna sound weird. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I feel him at times. Like he's with me at times. He's a ghost at times. I remember when I first went to Burning Man. He was with me because he would have loved it.
Mm-hmm.
And he sometimes makes really inappropriate comments on my life at times. But yeah, that's the closest I think I've ever gotten to a soulmate, and I think that's actually, if soulmates exist, that's probably what they're more like, is other damaged souls, and I don't want to be damaged.
Right on.
Or I don't want to live damaged. And I don't think I have to.
You don't.
And I think I didn't choose to. I think that's actually an interesting story about our story, is that I did not choose that as my life.
Right on. So?
I don't know. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, that's what I was asking.
I feel weirdly awkward, as I usually do after you ask me an uncomfortable question. Because I don't know exactly how to gauge the level of vulnerability I just revealed, because one, I don't like vulnerability.
And two, I have the ultimate poker face.
You do. It's almost like you're a trained therapist or something. Unfair. Unfair. It's fine. It's fine.
It's fine. It's fine. I'm sure it's fine.
But there's some element of romance to that story, right? The doomed romance of it that I'm also a little suspicious of. I think that's the problem with. It's all about the stories we tell ourselves, right?
Right.
And I think a soulmate is a story we tell ourselves. A true love is a story we tell ourselves. The one is a story I tell ourselves, and I actually think that life is not just one story.
No, life is many stories, and that's the thing. And we get to write the chapters.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're novellas.
Sometimes they're one paragraph.
Oh,
God, I don't know where we are with time, but this is an interesting question I wanted to ask you. Is like, do you have the emotional stamina in you now to have a novella or paragraph moment with a partner or with a romantic interest? Or are you kind of auditioning, strictly for novel participants right now?
No, I think I feel I have the stamina for it.
Okay.
Because again, there's still many people I haven't met yet.
Oh, I like that. That's a nice way to look at it.
Yeah, and again, not a Dreamweaver moment, not a modeling moment, but there's a lot of. I know I'm not done meeting new people that are going to enter my life.
New stories. I feel like that's a fun, somewhat hopeful note to end on. Are you okay with ending it?
I'm totally okay with ending. It's like, yes, I had the hopeful note this evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, man. I feel like if I had a xylophone, I would play it right now. Ding, ding, ding.
So, everybody, we are getting ready to launch some social media sites.
Like
Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, possibly Snapchat, because I need to learn how to do these things as
old man.
This old man going, I need to understand Snapchat. Let me shake my fist at the youth of today. But so Bonnie and I will have individual emails, Blake at drinkingwithyourx.com and Bonnie with drinkingwithyourx.com.
But if you have questions, feedback, anything about the show itself, go to the standard email, info@drinkingwithyourx.com. And, hey, subscribe and enjoy. We're here to help, or we're here to actually, drink a lot and share our opinions.
Yeah, and also, we really want to hear from you, especially our 5 listeners out in Peoria, Illinois.
Yeah, we love you.
Yeah, I'm raising my glass to you all.
I'm pouring out a little bit for my homies.
All right, everyone. So that was another stunning edition of Drinking with Your Ex with Bonnie Neal.
And Blake Thompson.
It's about that time to get a refill, time to get some ice out of the freezer, and have a great, wonderful night.
Thank you, guys.